Hello, my name is Alcy, and this is going to be an hour-long yin sequence using the wall. If you've never practiced wall yin before, all that you're going to need is a wall surface about the space of your arm span. If it's a little smaller, we can work with it, that's fine. It's also going to help to have a pillow nearby at some point. It may be a blanket if at the end you wanna cover up. This is a pretty prop-less sequence, but you never know. I like having pillows and blankets nearby just in case. So starting out, I just want you to find a comfortable seat against the wall. You can sit cross-legged, or you can sit hips to heels. I just want to give you a chance to feel the wall's support, feel the floor's support, and just breathe with that a few times. And just so you know, I've got my singing bowl here I'll use to let you know when a pose is completed, when we're ready to transition out. And I've got my phone nearby just as a timer. It's on airplane mode, so I'm just using it to keep track of the timing and the poses. So give yourself a chance, maybe set up so your lower back is right up against the wall, and then let your shoulders kind of spread out. You might even lean your head against the wall. So slightly out of alignment, but I want you to feel that support of this surface. You might close your eyes. I would recommend placing your hands down for right now, just so we can call in this grounding, this support from the surface below us and from the surface right behind us. Starting just to identify with your breath, the depth, the texture, the feeling of it as it passes in and out of the body. Observe how your breath affects the connections that you're having with the surfaces below and behind you. You might even be able to feel yourself breathing into the floor, into the wall. Start to allow yourself to let go of effort in the shoulders, through the spine, in your face, really all over, from the top of your head down to your seat, down through your feet. Let some effort wash away from you right now. Starting to deepen your breath a little bit. We'll take a few deep breaths together to start this practice. Kind of move back into the body. Start by exhaling all of your breath out. Inhale from the earth. Really fill up from the bottom to the top. Feel the breath rise in the body, sealing that breath all the way up to the crown of your head. Take another sip. And then open your mouth, let it go. Do that twice more, breathing in through your nose. Slow and full. Breathing out through the mouth. Relaxed and present. Last one. Biggest, deepest breath of your day so far. Spilling exhale when you feel it. Taking a moment to gather maybe hands in front of the heart or in front of the third eye. If you'd like to set an intention with this practice, now would be your moment. It's an hour of yin, so your intention could be something along the lines of, plugging into yourself, silence, stillness, following the breath, whatever it is. Seal that intention in your heart or in your brow chakra. And then when you're ready, release your arms into your lap, flutter your eyes open, and we'll get ready for the first shape. So I'll show you from the side. You can either stay cross-legged, or some people prefer to sit hips to heels here. Get one side of you really close to the wall. This is called open wing with wall variation. And I'm just going to extend. I'm going to start with my right side, but you might start with your left. I'm going to extend my right arm out behind me. I like to turn my palm to the wall just because it creates some traction. I can almost kind of keep my hand there throughout. And then I'm just sort of leaning my chest in, and I could use my outside arm to create a slightly deeper stretch. So play around with that. Some people might be able to walk their hand even further back. For those of you very flexible, you might be interlacing your fingers at the wall. It's really kind of up to you and your body. Please know that this arm might be a little lower, and it might be a little higher than 90 degrees. You're just looking for some sensation, some feeling of stretch on the inside of the arm, the inside of the shoulder, and the chest. So we're going to do this for 2.5 minutes. The first few moments might still be you kind of figuring it out. That's fine. Ideally, you find a place where you can be still and just start to allow a softness around the spaces that you feel the stretch. You're welcome to play around with how you position your head in this stretch. I personally like to bring my head into a very neutral position. When I'm opening my head too much, I can cause a little bit too much strain on the top of my shoulder, or my neck connects to my shoulder, the trapezius muscles along the back of the neck. But for some people, it might feel good to lean the head away or lean the head in. So play around, but be gentle and be mindful of the movements you're making and the ripple effects of each of your choices, how it feels throughout the body. We just got a little bit under a minute left. You can always leave this stretch early, no pressure. You might need to lean your body away a little bit to let that arm slide down. And just treat that arm as if you were caring for a newborn, right? You don't want to whip your arm out of the shape or shake it all around after. In fact, you might just let your arm rest in your lap for a couple breaths, observing how all of this sensation starts to make its way back to neutral. and take it over to the other side when you feel ready. And just know if you're ever not ready, if I start to transition a little early to the next pose and you're just not there yet, feel free to hit pause on the video and you can hit play when you're ready. All right, so setting up, just turning your body the opposite direction. Taking the arm out behind you and starting to play around with what's the right position. Where do I feel this stretch in a place that feels good, or at least feels like a stretch? Some of these stretches can be a little uncomfortable. Some of these stretches can feel a little out of your comfort zone, and I think that is normal and totally healthy, totally appropriate. These are not poses that we do every day for most of us. So give yourself a chance to explore, navigate a little bit what feels good, what maybe doesn't feel so good. Maybe you try a couple different positions with the arm. I'm going to start the timer for 2.5 minutes. Ideally, you want to find a position where your body is the most relaxed, as much as it can be sitting up with your arm stuck on the wall. I want to imagine that your body is creating space for your mind to go along for the ride. If a version that you've chosen is too intense, if the stretch is just too uncomfortable, then your mind is going to be stuck on the sensations and the annoyingness of it. You might get frustrated more easily. On the contrary, if you're not feeling enough, if you've picked a stretch where there's not enough stimulation of energy in the muscles and the joints, you're not going to be feeling enough, and the mind might wander and start thinking about other stuff. So really going for that in-between, that happy medium of sensation in these poses. Using the breath to help you get to know yourself right now, today, in this moment. Just 30 more seconds here. Take your time coming out of that shape, letting your arm rest for a moment, maybe even allowing the body to lean back up against the wall. Observe your body's natural process of coming back into itself. Know that this is healthy for the joints and the tissues to stretch and relax. All right, setting up for this next one, you're going to end up facing the wall. So I'm going to show you, and then I'll give you a couple pointers, and then I'll do it for the amount of time that you'll be doing it. But ideally, you can sit hips to heels. You might also be able to do this one cross-legged. Yeah, it'll don't see why not. So finding a comfortable position for yourself. This is called melting heart pose against the wall. So this is how I like to do it. I like to do hips to heels, make a little more space. And then I like walk my arms up the wall. My elbows right now are pretty connected to the wall, but some people might choose to walk the hands so far up that the elbows aren't even touching the wall. And the idea is just to let your heart, let your belly kind of sink and melt in. You could picture this pose flipped so that my knees are on the floor and my chest is reaching towards the floor, but now we're using the wall just for a different perspective, slightly different sensation in the arms and shoulders. Looking for some sort of stretch in the inner arms, the inner chest. You might even be getting a stretch across the chest and the belly. So play around with the distance between your arms, and if you're bending your elbows or keeping them straight. So play around with that. This will be a 3-minute pose. I'll go ahead and start the timer now. If you're not quite getting enough sensation of back bend, if you want a little bit more stretch through the spine, you're welcome to walk your knees a little further away from the wall. That's going to create a slightly deeper swoop in the spine. And for those of you a little more flexible in the neck, you're welcome to place your chin on the wall or your forehead. It's really up to you. Halfway through. And if your breath is feeling restricted or like you're not able to take a big breath, spend the last 30 seconds or so here just experimenting with what breath is available to you here. What kind of space do you have? Really slowly starting to distance yourself from the wall a little bit, just with your chest, lean the chest back, the arms are going to slide down. And then just giving yourself a minute, either seated on your heels or if you want to just spill your weight to one side and take the pressure off the hips, off the knees. This time after a pose of just being still and observing, we call this the rebound. And the rebound is a time to just watch all of the little tiny details, all the subtle sensations that trickle back in, or trickle through, I should say, after you leave a shape. From here, we'll do one more for the upper body. So this one, you're going to swivel yourself to face away from the wall. And your distance between you and the wall is going to be different for everybody. So personally, I like to have 1.5 feet, but you might have to adjust as you get there. You might turn your palms out. You might turn your fingers in. This is really different for everybody. And you might be walking your arms so close together that you could just interlace your fingers. The idea here is to stretch across the top of the shoulders and the neck. You might also get a feeling of stretch across the front of the chest. This is a variation on lounging monkey. So getting really now across the shoulders and the neck and the chest. You might feel this down into your palms, into your thumbs. You might get some stimulation of your wrists. We're going to do this also for 3 minutes. And I'll share with you that this is a challenging pose for me to hold for 3 minutes. I have an injury in my wrist I'm dealing with, so I might not make it the whole time. We'll see. Just know that you also have that allowance in any of these shapes. You can always shift halfway through or move out a little early and just take a little longer rebound. Totally fine. If you're not quite feeling enough through the shoulders and the chest, and the wrists are feeling okay, you might shift yourself even a little bit more forward away from the wall, and then come back into this shape in the arms and the shoulders. Thinking of the arms almost like kickstands here. Just about one more minute to breathe with and be with the sensations through the body. And notice if these shapes at any point stimulate sensations of emotion, feelings in the heart, or thoughts in the mind. Very gradually, you can shift into some sort of a seat. I'm just going to be here for a minute. Hands and arms can be in any position, something neutral-ish, So you can see what's cooking, what comes up after you open the joints, open the tissues in this way. If you need more time to transition, just hit pause or go back. So this next thing we're going to do, we're going to start using our wall space a bit more. Let me show you how to get your legs up the wall. So this is just one way, and what's cool is that you are hopefully in your own home, your own space, where you can do this any way you want. And it might end up looking or feeling a little awkward, and that's fine. Just a suggestion here. So you just kind of scoot yourself up against the wall. My right hip is pretty close to the wall right now. And then you just lean back. As you lean back, you can even press your hand into the wall and just use it to swivel your hips towards the wall. Yeah. So not too complicated, but it might be a little bit. Might be a little bit funny the first few times you do it. And then this first one, I want to go in for an inner thigh stretch. And now that we've got the upper body neutral, you might take up some space and outreach your arms or bring the arms overhead. This really becomes whatever you need for the upper body. So I'm going to start by just bringing the soles of my feet to touch and letting my knees fall apart. This is where some props might come in handy. I like to kind of use my arms as props just so I'm not ever going into a stretch that's too deep or too intense. But ideally you want to find a position where you're not using too much effort to keep yourself in place. So do your best to relax your shoulders, soften the belly. If you're not feeling an inner thigh stretch or groin stretch in this shape, this butterfly shape, you might try walking your feet apart a little bit or a lot. And you might even end up in what we call dragonfly variation, which is legs out long. If this is the best version for you, then you can stay right here. So everyone just starts to kind of find their own best version. I'm going to start the timer for 5 minutes. Wherever you need to be, start to discover and play around with that, looking for a stretch on the inner thighs, the groin muscles. See if with each passing breath, each passing moment, you can allow a little bit more than you would be kind of enforcing your will on your hips or your knees or your feet here. Yin is a very different practice from a vinyasa or a hatha or ashtanga or iyengar practice. Instead of trying to get your body to go somewhere, you're simply just noticing where your body is in this moment. So wherever you are, however you're set up, try and relax around the stretch. You may already feel that halfway through this shape, this feels so much different than when you started. That's quite normal. Do your best to just observe, just watch. And let this combination of time and stillness create space, create a stretch, create an opportunity for a new sensation. Just one more minute to go. You're doing great. If your legs are out wide in that dragonfly variation, you might feel a little stuck. So use your hands if you need to, use your arms to help guide your legs back together. You can either bring your feet to the wall with knees bent or legs straight, or for some of you it might feel better to just let the knees fall all the way into the chest. And we'll just give about a minute here to reset the inner thighs and just observe in stillness. If you're feeling the urge to sway in the lower back, that's totally fine. You can do that. So the next thing we're going to do when you're ready is, it's kind of a build up to plow pose, which is a very deep forward fold. We don't have any other poses in this sequence with spinal flexion, with rounding, so I want to introduce a little bit of that. Know that if this doesn't feel good for your spine, or you have any issues or things that might keep you from doing this sort of pose in your neck or in your back, that you can simply skip it or keep your legs up the wall for the next 3 or 4 minutes and just sit with yourself, whatever feels best for you. So I'm going to take my feet to the wall. I'm going to push into the wall until my hips start to draw towards me a little bit. So this is going to look different for every body. I like to just bring my hands to my back so I can kind of feel where I am in space, but you might let your arms rest. You might interlace your hands behind your back and press your pinkies into the floor. I'm just going to go ahead and start the timer on this one because it's a little bit of a process. You might spend half the time in this pose just kind of feeling it out and moving your feet around and making little adjustments, but that's fine because what we're really looking for here is to shift some pressure off the back, put a little bit more compression into the spine, so the shoulders and the neck are going to feel that feeling here of rounding, of kind of curling in towards the navel. And to a healthy degree, I want you to find a version of this that feels good for you. So I like to extend one leg overhead. For me, it just feels therapeutic. It feels nice in the back. And you might do that for a couple breaths and maybe find the other one. Or you might keep both feet on the wall this whole time. There might be those among you who like to find plow pose, which will be to drape both legs back behind you. The ears might be framed by the knees, or you might be able to have your toes touch the floor. Again, different in every body, and you just kind of got to notice, right, where you feel this sensation in the spine. Is it more in the head? Is it more in the shoulders? Do you feel it more across the middle back? Maybe in the lower back? For some people, this plow pose is a hamstring stretch. So just notice that. Notice what's coming up. We've got about another 90 seconds or so here, so find a version of this shape where you can stay for several more breaths. If this ever starts to feel aggravating, or maybe you've already felt like you've gotten your fill of this shape, maybe you don't need this much rounding in your back, feel free to bring your feet back to the wall and slowly lower your hips. I'm going to suggest that when you're in this shape, you don't move your head too much from side to side. But some people, that doesn't bother them. It really just depends on how it's feeling for you when you're there. I'm going to leave a little early so I can watch the timer and just kind of hold space for you guys, but we've got about 20 more seconds. If your legs are still overhead, start to bring your feet back to the wall. Very slowly lower your back down to the earth. And same thing as before, we're just going to take a minute. You can keep your feet on the wall, you can let your knees fall to your chest, or for some people, a neutral position here might just be rolling to the side. So allowing whatever your body might need in this moment. The next two shapes, they kind of blend into each other. So we'll do right leg on one side, and then we'll do the left leg on the other, and we'll just do two shapes and then flow into the other side. So when you're ready, if you've moved to your side, come back onto your spine, onto your back. Yeah, let's just start with left foot on the wall, crossing the right ankle over the left knee. It's called figure four. And you might already be getting a stretch in your outer right hip here, your glute muscle, your butt muscle. Whether it's really in the bigger part of the seat, the part of your butt that cushions you when you sit, or if it feels more internal. Or you might even be feeling it on the outer thigh, the outer hip, kind of down the outside of the leg a little bit, IT band sort of area. I'm going to start the timer here for 3 minutes. What's cool about this version, the wall version of this shape, is that because you've got your left foot into the wall, really anywhere you want to place it, it's up to you. You don't necessarily need to wrap your arms around your legs. So you can take your arms in a position that feels good. Maybe it feels good to stretch the arms overhead or to take up some space, arms out to the sides. Find your own version of this shape today. Some of you might really appreciate this exploration of sliding the right knee closer to the left knee. For some people, that deepens the stretch in the outer hip. Keep in mind, if you were already feeling something in this first figure four we found, then you don't need to move. Just an option if you're needing to seek out a slightly different feeling or a slightly deeper stretch. If you're really not getting enough stretch and you've still got some space between your butt and the wall, you could just rock yourself in a little bit, get a little closer, or you could always bring your arms back in for an extra weight. And not necessarily pulling down, but just finding a position of your hands and your wrists where the weight of your arms can add a little extra sensation. So instead of leaving this shape entirely, we're going to take this shape, and I'll come back into this place we started, into a twist. So depending on, the availability in your joints, how everything's feeling in your back and your knees and your hips, you might just be able to tip your legs right over to the right. And there's a chance that I'm looking like the opposite of what you're doing right now. So just listening to the directions, if you had your right ankle on top of your left knee, you're going to twist to the right, and you might keep your right ankle anchored over your left knee, or you can extend the right leg. Some people might appreciate both knees together, and just feet can be guarded against the wall. Either way, let your right shoulder open away from the direction of your knees. Oh, you'll have to excuse me. It's challenging not to yawn in yin. We're also going to do this pose for 3 minutes. Take time to find a version that works for you. Maybe if you had your right ankle, your right knee hooked over your left, maybe you go for that deeper twisted roots variation here. You've got all sorts of different ways you can use your body and use the wall here to find a twist and find a stretch across the hips, across the shoulders that really feels good. It helps you kind of wring out any loose ends, wring out any tension. Allow this shape to create a space for yourself where you can explore a sense of freedom. One more minute to go. Be sure that you are softening through the muscles of your ankles, your hips, and your shoulders. Doing less so that you can maybe feel and notice a little bit more. Very slowly start to bring yourself back up to the wall. You might plant your feet into the wall, or you could extend your legs up the wall. Maybe a little gentle shake out through the legs, maybe a little flick or swish, point and flex of the toes, rolling of the ankles. I'm going to find figure 4 on the other side. So right foot is going to be planted into the wall here. You can cross your left ankle over top. Bringing the foot further up the wall is going to create a little more space. If your hips are feeling very tight and just crossing the ankle over the knee feels difficult, walk the right foot up to do so, and then once your ankle is crossed, you can walk the foot down to a degree that feels good. I'm going to start the clock for 3 minutes. If you know that you prefer to cross your knees deeper, you can. Really breathe into and drop back into the support of the earth. With each breath in, each breath out, let yourself be held, supported. Remind yourself here that you are safe to experience and feel, and just watch yourself. And if you notice criticism or judgment or any sort of negativity passing through the mind, take a moment to acknowledge it. Say, okay, I see you, I notice that, I'm observing this negative comment or this negative self-talk. You might not necessarily be able to send it away or tell it to piss off, but do your best to observe, stay open, notice what serves you, what doesn't, and do your best to shift focus to what is going right, what feels good in the body, and how can you be kind to yourself throughout the whole process. Take this right into the twist, so whether you want to cross your legs all the way or just tip yourself over to your right, play around with the positioning of your legs. Ideally, the twist just comes when your legs go one direction and your upper body goes in the opposite direction. But there's all sorts of different things you can do to stimulate a deeper twist or a deeper stretch through the hips. So just take a couple moments to play around with how you're positioning your legs, how you're positioning your upper body. And we'll do 3 minutes here. I think for this last official pose, before we take our little rest with legs up the wall, I'd love for you to come back to your intention. So if you set one at the beginning of this time, come back to whatever it was, whatever you're feeling, whatever you were feeling in that moment. And notice how you can embody that intention right now. In the final minute here, allow yourself to enter a sort of free fall. As best you can, lower your resistance in the body and in the mind. Imagine yourself floating, flying. No more physical, mental, or emotional effort required. Take your time gently unwinding from that twist. And you've got a couple options here. We're just going to do a 3-minute guided rest here. You can rest with your legs up the wall. That's option 1. And the legs can really go in any orientation. My hips naturally turn out, but yours might naturally turn in, and that's fine. I did mention pillows at the beginning, so just to offer this option, some people find this really beneficial. You can use that wall arch that you did from earlier, pressing your feet in, lifting your hips up to slide a pillow underneath your hips. And what this does, it's bringing the hips higher than the heart, so it just creates a little bit more ability to really soften through the hips and the belly. And it allows the legs going up the wall to relax a bit more. It creates a little softer angle in the hips and the thighs and the torso. So just notice what you feel here. You might also choose to take this last 3 minutes rest on your back with your legs out long on the floor, or you can sit up and do a seated meditation with your back against the wall. Once you're in a position that you can be still, where you can be still, let your body soften into the support of the floor, of the wall, of any props underneath and around you. Do a little check-in from your toes all the way down the legs, through the belly, through the hips, up the torso, out the arms. Just kind of washing softness over the body. Relax your throat, your face, your forehead. Make a point to do nothing. you're in a place where you're feeling really cozy, really comfortable, you don't really want to go anywhere just yet, then you can stay put. If you feel ready to transition out of this position, off the wall, then just start by walking your feet down. You might even bring the knees into your chest and give yourself a squeeze, or rock the hips, or circle the pelvis. Whenever you feel ready, if you're up on a pillow, just be extra gentle with yourself. You're going to roll to one side and maybe even create a little pillow with your arm for your head to rest. Take a couple slower, deeper breaths in and out. Feel the belly and the body expand together. And when you're ready, start to pick yourself up. We're going to come back into a seated position if you like. You're also welcome to just finish out on your back. Bringing your hands first to your thighs, thanking that earth energy for supporting you. Then gathering hands in front of or together at the heart. Giving some gratitude to that air energy, that heart energy that really creates the space that we need to practice lovingly and kindly to ourselves. And then finally, honoring our intuitive center, our energy that really guides us through the unknowns, the transitions, all the parts that feel like, it's really up to you to monitor this experience for yourself. And the energy of the brow, the third eye, that really creates a safe place for you to do so. So giving gratitude here, allowing a couple breaths to pass in and out of your body. Thank you so much. Namaste. See ya.